Woman says she's too sick to work, but evidence appears to contradict her claims. Typical story we've heard before, right? But this one gets better because she was using this as an excuse to keep leeching money from her ex-husband. Ex-husband wants better checks and balances in divorce cases involving alimony. This right here is a good way to get it. Put these corrupt courts on blast. What do you have to lose at this point if you're the dude? When someone uses a medical illness to continue or modify spousal support payments they receive, who actually follows up to see if that person is being truthful with the courts? The answer, no one. That is a true statement. Even when it doesn't come to family court issues, like with regular court legal issues, a lot of times there's no verification at all. They just take your word for it. Now, there's a chance that they're going to investigate it, and depending on who you're up against, they might send fucking private detectives to your home to verify. Now, people have been busted like this before. Like people who've been, say, abusing workers' comp, for example. Like someone claims that they got injured on the job and they're too injured to work. And then a private investigator follows them to the gym and watches them hit up every single machine and bench 500 pounds and all that. Those types of stories are pretty common, but they're becoming a lot more common when it comes to family court BS now. This woman's attorney claims she's too sick to work, but how long should someone be responsible to pay alimony following a marriage? None, I would say. The whole point of alimony was back when alimony was introduced, women couldn't support themselves. Like they weren't allowed to. If a woman didn't find another man to take care of her, she was kind of screwed. Like usually they ended up going back to their parents. So I could see the purpose of alimony when society was how it was in the past. But right now, strong and independent and don't need no man, right? So get rid of that alimony. Through her attorney, Helga Charnecki is requesting the courts consider increasing spousal support more than 10 years after her divorce. In marriages that last 12.5 years or longer, Colorado judges can order one party to pay spousal support for half the length of the marriage. How long must their marriage have been then? Over 20 years? Yet court records reviewed by KOA News 5 Investigates show that in this case, spousal payments are continuing much longer, and they're able to get away with it. It's absolutely sickening, all the illegal stuff the family courts can get away with. Now, one prime example is debtor's prison. It's been illegal for hundreds of years in America to put someone in jail because they owe money. Like you can't lock someone up for being in debt anymore. So how do the family courts justify locking up fathers who can't pay their child support? They make it a court order. Oh, no, we're not locking him up for being in debt. We're locking him up for violating court orders, guys. The court ordered him to pay, and whether or not he can actually afford to pay is irrelevant. If he doesn't pay, he violates the court order. So lock him up. And this is another one of those examples. In actual law, they wouldn't be allowed to require alimony as long as they had in this case. But family court law, it's a completely parallel kangaroo court. As News 5 Investigates learn, judges are given discretion over these types of proceedings. Big mistake. Now, there are some things that I really disagree with in our legal system, like mandatory minimum, maximum sentencing. Because there have been a lot of people, like especially in states that have like 3 strikes laws, for the high crime of having a dime bag, 20 years in prison. For that, like, well, yeah, sorry, my hands are tied. That's the minimum sentencing. I don't have any discretion here. So some cases, judges need more discretion. But when it comes to things like stealing one person's money to give it to someone else, that should be spelled out. There should be a maximum term for alimony, no exceptions. According to Colorado attorney Stephen Longo, in current year -3, Colorado lawmakers passed legislation related to spousal support by creating a chart showing how long someone may be expected to pay alimony following a divorce. Longo reiterated to News 5 that these are just guidelines, not set policies that judges must follow. And that's the problem. The reason they're making these guidelines instead of laws is so these judges can refuse to force women to pay alimony while they can still do it to men. Because literally the only reason we've ever had alimony reform is because women most affected. Yes, I have to channel that meme again. Back when it was only men that ever had to pay alimony for women, lifetime alimony's fucking great. And then women started out earning men, and more women were having to pay alimony to their ex-husbands. And completely coincidentally, right as that started happening, alimony started to be drastically cut back. So this is a loophole that Colorado found to get around it. Like, we're just going to remove all the laws and make legal guidelines so by judges' discretion, they can continue to rake men over the coals while letting women off the hook. That's how the family courts operate. Divorce cases often involve emotions. Bullshit. They always involve emotions. According to Longo, sometimes these cases can get tied up in the courts for several years, like this one. I just don't think the courts have a way to follow up on things, Greg Shanicki said. Greg is frustrated having to pay spousal support to his ex-wife following a 14-year marriage that ended more than a decade ago. Guys, this is why you need to be ready to leave the country, because the family courts in the Western world are an absolute disaster. If you have a penis, they will rake you over the coals and your life will never recover. Never. So be ready to leave. Court records show Greg was ordered to pay his ex-wife Helga $1,400 a month from current year minus 12 to current year minus 8. In current year minus 7, those payments were reduced to $600 a month, then $300 a month beginning in December, current year minus 4. By this time, 7 years had passed, half the length of the marriage. Still, Greg was not off the hook for payments. Leave. Now, in this case, it may even be enough to leave the state. A lot of times, it's not like this guy's a federal wanted criminal. Leaving the state is sometimes good enough. You'll just never be able to come back. Still, Greg was not off the hook for payments. He's been paying $100 a month since current year minus 3. That may not sound like much, but it's way too much. Greg wants the payments to end now and believes his ex-wife is taking advantage of the civil court system, because she is. 11 years after the divorce, Helga's attorney had filed paperwork with the El Paso County courts to not only continue spousal payments, but increase the amount back to $600 a month because of a series of reported medical issues that are preventing Helga from working. How the fuck is that the guy's problem? Now, guys, I've been pointing this out for years. The deal that women get with alimony is basically like, imagine if you quit your job, but your employer was forced to keep paying you the same salary as if you stayed working there for the rest of your life. That's basically what these women are doing. They quit their job and expect you to keep paying for them forever. And the family courts are allowed to get away with this. Her health has deteriorated in current year and continues to deteriorate at a more rapid rate, attorney R. Gregory Haller said in the June current year court filing. Even if this was true, which it's not, and they got evidence, how is that his problem? Now, in a court hearing that month, Helga is heard on radio appearing to be sick, gagging, and coughing. That's how you know it's an act. And from personal experience, the sickest I've ever been in my life, I've always sounded fine. But then when I got something like I got a bad cough or I got I lose my voice, sore throat, whatever, I'm perfectly fine otherwise. So when I sound bad, I'm usually not that bad at all. But when I sound fine, I'm almost dead. It's real insane. You know, she's gagging and coughing so severe that at one point she falls down, Greg's new wife, Teresa, said. That's how you know it's a fucking act. And the family court, to their credit, they know it's an act too. They just don't care. You know, she fell. Helga's attorney can be heard saying to the courts. After some time passes, the coughing continues. Greg and Teresa say anytime alimony payments are about to end or potentially get reduced, Helga seems to have some major medical illness to inform the courts about. If someone could just follow her on a daily basis and see how she is when she goes to the grocery store, Teresa said, all we can do is show before and after videos of when she is not being watched, how she is, and then the videos from when she's in the courtroom, how she is. Several years ago, the courts heard from one of Helga's former employers who said that until current year -9, Helga was fully capable of working with a building maintenance company. However, her reported illness at the time prevented her from carrying out her abilities to lift or perform other physical activities. Fast forward to current year. 3 days before Helga's court hearing, where you can hear her collapsing and coughing, Helga's next door neighbor recorded a video from her home. Oh, they didn't even have to hire private investigators. In it, Helga appears to walk fine and has no issues moving around their backyard and lifting and moving a black plastic water pond liner. Then there's the video Teresa sent us that Helga reportedly posted on her Facebook in current year -4, appearing to show her dancing with a male stripper in a club. Someone's a little bit sus. Its video, Teresa says, will be submitted as legal discovery evidence in their upcoming hearing. Good. Now, this is the perfect way to handle it, by the way. The perfect way. Go to the media, get this out everywhere. Make it national news if you can. Put the courts on blast. And then also have all this evidence. The couple believes the video footage isn't indicative of a Whammons who is too sick to work or care for themselves. I just don't understand why the courts didn't every year follow up with medical proof that she's still sick. Why would they? The courts get a cut of this money. They want to keep milking you for all you're worth. They're not going to spend money to verify that this person's telling the truth. They'd rather just listen and believe and keep collecting payments. Even if she is sick, as people age, people get sick. Things happen to them. People get cancer. So does that mean every ex-husband has to support their ex through every illness the rest of their life? Yeah, and notice that this doesn't go the other way around. If the dude got sick and he couldn't work anymore, they wouldn't reduce his payments. They'd expect him to find a way to keep paying. That's how guys end up in jail for not paying child support. They lose their job, they get sick, they can't make the payments, the courts refuse to reduce the payments, and they go to jail for not being able to pay. No one cares. Well, that used to be the case anyway. I'm not really a fan of Johnny Depp personally. He is just as much of a deranged lunatic as the rest of Hollywood. But his case has opened the doors to a lot of this stuff being made public. So I'm actually kind of glad that that's happening. I'm glad he's fighting back like he is, because that's going to be changing the tide in a lot more ways. There's going to be a lot of unintended consequences of the good kind. Greg and Teresa are concerned about the checks and balances process with divorce cases like theirs. There literally aren't any. And that's the problem. Despite Helga providing the courts with prior documentation showing she has medical issues, the couple is calling her illness into question now after learning Helga is actively advertising on the internet as a caregiver. If you're qualified to take care of people's loved ones, you think you'd be qualified to take care of yourself, Greg said. Absolutely true. Helga's attorney told the courts in a recent filing that she was employed as a caregiver in current year -2 and -1. In current year, Helga was taking care of just one client due to her pain and health problems and could not walk at all beginning of last week of May. Now, this actually reminds me of one of my friends, because his mom was on like permanent disability because, she had so many health issues that apparently her health issues were so bad, she couldn't even sit at a desk and type at a keyboard 8 hours a day. She couldn't even have a desk job. She was in such poor health. What did she do all day? She sat at her desk watching Korean dramas. So she could sit at her desk all day watching Korean dramas, but she can't sit at a desk all day doing work. Logic. Evidence News 5 investigates gathered on its own appears to contradict this. On July 14th, Helga met a News 5 employee at a local Starbucks in Colorado Springs after we reached out to her via a Nextdoor ad. Oh, God. See, now these guys, this is proper journalism right there. These guys aren't journalists. They're journalists. They're doing actual investigative journalism work. During that meeting, Helga disclosed to us that she has 4 clients and says one of her clients pays her $2,000 a month. Yep, she's only collecting that alimony as a way to spite her ex-husband. The disclosure of multiple clients, Helga has directly disputed statements Helga's attorney has presented in court documents. Teresa and Greg say they intend to bring up what we uncovered in their next court hearing related to alimony. It just seems like an uphill battle to prove things, Greg said. Well, welcome to family courts. I've been talking about this for the whole 8 years I've been here. Unfortunately, proving matters in civil court can come with a price tag. Judges do not provide court-appointed private investigators to prove whether someone's being truthful in court. Helga just keeps coming back and coming back. Teresa said she wants $25,000, but it may even cost us that and more to prove she's lying. Start trying. So this is when you stop playing defense and go on the offense. This is when you do what Terrence Popp calls administrative violence. Find every little thing she's done and take her to court for it. If she's ever cheated on her taxes, report her to the IRS for it. Use the bureaucracy to the fullest extent possible and destroy her. She'll be too occupied trying to keep herself afloat to keep messing with you. Now, Greg and Teresa have hired an attorney to fight Helga's request for additional payments. Yeah, it's a lot more expensive in the short term to do this, but you should always fight back. Because in the long term, it's always going to cost you way more if you don't. The News 5 investigators reached out to both Helga and her attorney for comment. After multiple phone calls, Helga's attorney responded by saying he had no comment at the time because of pending litigation. Now, he better have some good proof that he didn't knowingly present these lies. I mean, it's entirely possible she lied to him. I mean, I'll give him that, but I doubt it. So let's look at how much bullshit these laws actually are. In current year -3, Colorado passed legislation that basically gave the court guidelines, not strict rules. Longo explained it roughly works out to half the time of the marriage. If you've been married for 20 years, the chart allows for 10 years of spousal support. In special circumstances, you've been married 20 years, it can be for life. Oh, God, yeah. Colorado is one of the few states that still allows that lifetime alimony crap. Yeah, I would not be married in Colorado. Holy shit. The general calculation is going to take the higher wage earner in the marriage on the annual or monthly basis and take 40% of that number. So if they make $10,000 a month, you take $4,000 and then half the amount at the lower wage earner. And let's say that's $5,000 a month, and you take 40%, subtract it from the 50% or so. The higher wage earner makes $10,000 a month, and the lower wage earner makes $5,000 a month. It will be $4,000 minus $2,500. So the monthly support to be $1,500. Longo adds that the burden for any spousal support challenges falls on the person asking for the change in the agreement. To avoid constant changes and potential of being back in court on a frequent basis, he says some parties will agree to sign what's called a non-modifiable agreement. Do not do that. Oh, God. That's how they'll get you. Oof. But either way, this case isn't won yet. But if even the media is getting involved, knowing what their leanings usually are, this is being exposed for the whole world to see. Yeah, we're going to have to expose the antics of these corrupt courts. That's the only way we're going to fix this. So combine all the hard evidence, and then if the courts ignore your evidence, that's when you go to the social media. That's when you go to the legacy media even. Hey, look, we have all this evidence, and the courts are still reaming us up the ass. How is this fair? Put these judges on blast. The tide is finally starting to turn. Oh man, I am so excited to tell you guys right now that finally, after about a year of build-up and shilling, we have launched Blade Devil on Indiegogo, and so far it is doing so well thanks to awesome people like you. If you haven't backed it yet, then please check the links in the description and check out Blade Devil on Indiegogo. You will not be disappointed. Looking forward to seeing you there.